Okay, I'm not sure if. Okay, it is. Okay, guys, so we are live. Um, so I have been working on a startup for the last week or so, and I thought I'd start streaming it just as a way to keep myself accountable and just to keep track of how much work I'm actually getting done. And also, I thought it might be useful to talk out loud, maybe spew some ideas. So this is not really intended to be a session where I interact a lot with people. It's just like an inner monologue thing going on, but probably be working on some stuff for the next 5 hours or so. I don't even think I'll have the. I may look at the chat every once in a while. Let's see how it goes. But my main focus is gonna be on the project that I'm working on. So, yeah, this is actually right from the very beginning. The plan is to formulate exactly what I'm going to be doing, which is like, okay, what is the problem that I'm going to be working on, and so in terms of the tech itself, I don't want to keep it too complicated right now. The goal is just to get the platform in front of as many people as possible. So I'm just gonna follow like an online tutorial, just build out like a basic framework that I can work off of, and then maybe heavily modify it to fit what I'm trying to do, and then work off of that. So I'm not really going to worry too much about the tech yet. I just want to get it in front of users, see what they think, and then based on the feedback, we'll iterate. So the goal is going to be to put out as much stuff as possible over the next 2 weeks or so, or rather to decrease the amount of time it takes for me to put things out. So I'm not like at least on a very technical level, I'm not there yet. But hopefully, the my goal, my personal goal with this. Wait, there's an error on my stream. Okay, anyway, yeah. So the goal is just gonna be to stay on track and build some stuff. So now the idea that I'm working on, I've code named it Bengaluru Town Square. So this is this is an idea I've been working on for quite some time now, but we came up with a few versions of this, and I wasn't really fully satisfied with what I was building. But the problem is we never actually like built out a version and put it out in front of people. So that is my goal here. So the first step is going to be to just formulate the problem. So what is the problem that we're trying to solve for people? And this is something that I've just learned over time that I've just learned over time that this has to be the North Star of your startup, right? Because technical solutions and the solution itself can change over time, but the problem that you're trying to solve, you just like even if you are not clear on what you're trying to solve, your customers are never going to be. So like you need to be able to explain in a sentence or two what exactly the problem is that you're trying to solve, and this is actually way harder than you think. So for instance, the problem that we're trying to solve here is basically that it's very hard to find like-minded people in this city. And what I mean by that is, let's say I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I want to meet other people who are building startups in Bangalore. So how do I do that? Okay, I may go look for communities, but then existing platforms don't really allow you to find groups within the city. Like there are different communities, but the only way you can find these communities is through your friends. So your friend may tell you about this cool thing that you can join. Um, but like unless there's no like centralized aggregators, there's no aggregator for all these communities that you can explore and find people. So um, So the main problem that we're trying to solve is it's hard to meet or find like minded people in the city. And also what we're trying to do is we are trying to what we're trying to do is we are trying to find a way to aggregate cool communities within the city in one place. So and make them uh, increase their discoverability. Okay. So now the thing is, these are just ideas on what the problem is going to be, but it's not the problem itself. We need to come up with, okay, what is the fundamental aspect of this problem that that people find the most problematic. So I feel like, once you finish university or once you finish college, it's hard to run into people because it's hard to meet similar people because there is you just run into, so for instance, when you go to work, you just run into such a wide variety of people from all over the place that you don't really um, have an environment that's conducive to hanging out. I would say, like, there's what we're trying to build is essentially the third place, which is the idea that most people have three places: a place to work, a place to live, which is your home, and you have a place to hang out, and which is the third place. So what we're trying to do is essentially we're trying to build a virtual solution for a third. And this is going to essentially heavily rely on you finding the right kind of people and the right kind of communities within the city, which is not really going to be a problem initially because we're not going to have that many users, we're not going to have that many communities. So we're just going to build the most bare bones solution possible, and then we'll iterate on that. So now, one of the problems that I can foresee is this idea a torpid idea? So a torpid idea is an idea that a lot of people have already tried to solve but have not been able to solve effectively. Or rather, it's an idea where a lot of really smart people have tried solving. So it seems like a very good idea on the onset, but then once you actually start working on the problem, you run into some kind of hurdle or some kind of obstacle that's insurmountable, which just makes it very difficult to solve. So a lot of people have tried solving certain problems and they just have not been able to, and that's generally a very bad sign because, of course, like, if no one is able to solve a problem, then it's unlikely that you will be able to, unless something drastically, unless like you're able to isolate what the problem actually was and something has changed to make it solvable now, which can happen. But the problem that I'm trying to solve here is more of like, it's not really a technical challenge, it's more of like a societal aggregator kind of a thing. So I'm pretty sure people have tried some versions of this, but no one has been able to like launch. And another thing is, I feel like in the last 10 years or so, there hasn't been any major player in the social media space. Correct me if I'm wrong, but apart from a few like BeReal and stuff, even BeReal I think fell off pretty heavily. So the thing is, this is actually a very bad this is actually not the best idea to work on, because monetization is a challenge, especially in India where I live, where people don't really pay online for stuff. Um, and also you have the chicken and egg problem, where you need to have communities, you need to have users already on the platform to so if a new user were to join the platform, the only thing that will keep them on the platform is like the communities and the people that are already there. So if you don't have users on the platform, it's hard to retain new users. So yeah, and it's not that it's a problem that's insurmountable. It's something to keep in mind. Yeah, but the only reason I'm still trying to solve this problem is because this is a problem that I really want to solve for myself. So I don't really see this working out in the long term. But I just thought, it'll be a cool thing to build out just to improve my technical ability, and also it's a way for me to learn a bit more about the startup process. So I've been quite hands-on with the rest of the stuff, but I haven't actually like built something out from scratch, and I've never done this solo before, so it's going to be something that's going to be quite interesting. Okay, so let's come up with a problem statement, which is I think the basis of the problem is we need some kind of online space to meet new people or interact. And yeah, I think this is good enough to get started with. So like the existing platforms that we use, like platforms like Instagram and stuff, they don't really have this. You can't form the current problem with the social media space is that it's just too broad. Like if you go to Facebook, if you go to Instagram, if you go to Twitter, you have access to anyone and everyone. You have access to everyone in the world. So how do you actually meet people who you're likely to interact with, or like form like some kind of a relationship with? I think the only real platforms that are solving this to some extent right now are dating apps, but there's no like cool place to just go hang out. I feel like this would make for a really cool game actually, like Town Square, where you have a virtual avatar and you can meet other people. But the goal here is going to be to introduce you to cool people that you can hang out with. Yeah. So this is what we're trying to solve. Oh, we have 2 comments. Hey, what's up? Hey, Hari. What's up? How's it going? Okay, so I guess this is good enough to get started. So let's just put something out in front of users and see how this goes. Okay, so I'm not really sure if the resources that I'm going to be pulling up in the on stream is going to be allowed, but I'm just going to risk it. Okay, so let's get started.
I'm going to do JS 3.1 and click continue. And then we're redirected to the onboarding where you can see how this modal should look like. It should be dark, It should have a profile photo, and it should have 3 fields for your name, for the username, and for the bio, as well as the button. This right now is looking far from it, but we are getting.
I'm actually not sure where I was. Okay, so I've built out this one so far. Okay, I think this is the right spot.
So let's continue working on our form. Let's get started by using the right form fields, the ones that we need in our app. And those are going to be the name, username, and the bio, as well as this great profile picture selector. So let's get started. We first have our form, and we can give that form some class names. So let's put this into 2 lines.
I actually think the general architecture is going to be fairly the same. This one, in this tutorial, he's used MongoDB, which probably is going to be hosted on Atlas, I'm guessing. So I feel like, okay, I don't really want to throw out the term AI because it's just quite overused at the moment. But I feel like a really cool use case for this would be like to actually recommend people and communities that you would actually be interested in. So the way I see this is you start using the platform, you maybe join a community or two, so I can gauge what kind of stuff you're interested in and what kind of people you actually are interested in interacting with based off of that. And I can use that data to recommend other cool people and other cool communities that you may be interested in. So I think if we build something like that, that would be really cool.
And right here, instead of just space Y8, we can say flex dash call, justify dash start, and gap dash 10. For now, this just padding. We have our first form field.
Where is this account profile? Yeah. I'm guessing it's this. Yes, it is.
Form control. And the name is going to be profile underscore photo, where we render a that has a form item. And that form item can have a class name equal to.
Okay, so I'm just going to
Image
skip
tag.
through all this and just copy the code.
This is a great prop by Next.
I don't really.
If we have a profile photo to show, if smaller, about 24 we're going to that value, then we can render some.
Okay, form control, profile photo. Flex items center gap 4. Okay, so gap between each item is going to be 4. What is this account form image label? That's probably in the global CSS, so I'll check it out. Form image label. Okay, let's see. So now I'm gonna go to the global CSS, see if this does. Okay, so it's a flexbox, height, width, item center, justify center. It just sets the background, rounds out the corners, and sets the height and width. Okay. What does this do, I wonder? Okay. Okay, so basically what we're doing here is we are checking if there's a value. If there is a value, you render the image, or else I'm guessing you render a placeholder.
Slash profile dot svg.
Yep.
The
Okay. Is this under form control? Oh, it's under form label. All right. So let's render this out. Field dot value. Do we have this? Yeah. Okay. -6. 6. Okay. Rounded and okay, this containing the image. Got it. I'm not really sure what this priority does. I'll check that after this. Okay. Actually, why don't I just copy that? Yep. Okay. Now what changes? The src slash assets profile svg. Okay. I think this remains the same. Priority. Yep, it does. Cool.
And height can be much smaller, about 24 pixels right here. And it doesn't have to have priority, and it can only say object contain. So let's save it and let's check it out.
Let's just see what priority does in the image tag. The image will be considered high priority and loaded immediately instead of being lazy loaded. Okay. I mean, I kind of know what lazy loading is, but I just want to brush up. Maybe I should increase the font size a bit. Okay, got it. Cool.
As you can see, we have this little icon, and then you'll be able to choose your file. There. After the form label, we have the form control. That form control can have a class name equal to flex-1, text-base-semi-bold, as well as
Wait.
that form control. As you can see, we have this little icon, and it can.
Okay. So this is the form label. Okay, this is the form control and description. Okay. This is part of Shadcn, I'm guessing.
Object contain. So let's save it and let's check it out. As you can see, we have this little icon, and then you'll be able to choose your file to add it there. After the form label, we have the form control. That form control can have a class name equal to flex-1, text-base-semi-bold, as well as text-gray-200. Inside of it, we have an input. This input currently has a placeholder of Shadcn, and we're also spreading all of the props. But in our case, it's going to be an input of a type is equal to file. It's going to accept an image of all types. It's going to have a placeholder that's going to say upload a photo, and a class name equal to account-form_image-input. And of course, an onChange property or handler, where we have a callback function with an event, where we call the handle image function, pass the event, as well as the field.onChange. Of course, this handle image is a function that we are.
Okay. So this is going to be a flexbox, text base, semi-bold. I'm guessing this is a custom class. No, it's not. Okay. Then we are turning the text color, we're changing the text color. Okay. Now we don't need this. Is this built into Next? Where does this come from? Okay, this is from Shadcn. Okay, so we image okay. So this accepts a callback, and we will need to create a custom function where you get, what is this field variable? Okay, so it's passed an attribute. Okay, got it. So we will put this in.
Create. So let's scroll up, and above on submit, let's create const. In this case, it doesn't return anything, so it is void. This is how React event. And for now, you can simply get the event and say e.prevent default to prevent the browser to reload. And this event, of course, has to be of a specific type. So it's going to be change event coming from React. So make sure to import it at the top. Alongside the event, we're also getting the field change, which is equal to a callback function, like so, where we get the value as a string as the first and only parameter, and it doesn't return anything. So it is void. This is how React hook form works. We're also getting the field change, which is equal to a callback function, like so, where we get the value as a string as the first and only parameter, and it doesn't return anything. So it is void. This is how React hook form works. You immediately get the value right here. Great. So now, and it doesn't return anything. So it is void. This is how.
Okay. I'm not really sure what the change event type is. This is an event object that is automatically passed by React when an event handler is called. Okay. So in this case, the event is submitting the form. Field change, this is a callback function is expected to be passed into handler image. Okay, I get it. So here we pass the event when the user selects an image, the onChange event is triggered. The event field onChange function are passed to the handle image. Oh, okay. So E in this case is gonna be the event. So when a file is uploaded, we pass the event, and dot onChange is It just says it's a function that's typically provided. I don't think I need to know that in depth, so I'm just going to skip
React
it.
hook form works, you immediately get the value right here.
Yeah,
Great.
whatever.
So now we have our input of a type file, which renders an image. So now this is going to look like this, and you can actually input your file. In this case, we won't be needing a description, so we can remove the form description as well as the form message. These when we copy SHA-CN. And this is now looking a bit cleaner. We can now proceed to create other elements as well by copying this entire form field, which is pretty big, and then pasting it below. To create the one for our name, this one is going to be much simpler. We have a form field that has a control of for control. It has a name equal to name, and in this case, within the form label, we have a form field that has a control of for control.
Oh, okay, got it. So this, now we are gonna add the, I think it's username, but I'm just gonna, wait,
Name equal to name.
yeah, just the name. So your actual name. We copy this here. Actually,
In this case, within the form label, we don't have to put these images. We simply have to say name, okay? Because this is for the name field.
okay. Did it not reload? Or am I? Oh, I think the design hasn't been changed yet.
We don't need this class name. Rather, it's just going to be text-base-semi-bold and text-light-2. The gap can be 3 right here. And we can also add w-full, so it takes the full.
Okay, so this takes full width. And make the text space semi-bold, and we have, okay.
Of the container. And as the form control is going to be much simpler as well, the class name is going to be account form underscore input, not an image input, and no focus. We don't have to provide an
What does no focus do? Let me just, fuck. No, it's a custom class. Okay, so no focus. Oh fuck, this is quite complicated. I'm just gonna ask Copilot what this does. Ah, okay, got it. Cool. So basically, what this does is when you focus or when you click on an input field, it adds a custom border around it. So we can actually test that out. Is it? Wait, what? Okay, something's wrong here.
because we're going to spread the default field properties, so it already knows that this is a regular text input. That's why React Hook Form simplifies things. So if we save this, we immediately have.
No, it should work. I don't really do anything. I'm not sure why.
But and now we can duplicate this one 2 times. 1, 2. The second one is not.
Okay, let me just make sure that it's the same. Text base, semi-bold, okay, flex, semi-bold, things. Yeah, does seem the same. Oh, okay, I guess I looked up the wrong one. Yeah, seems to be fine. So we're spreading the default field properties here. It's coming from forms again. Okay. Probably will have to go through this when I'm building my own project again later, but you know what, for now, just gonna okay. Wait, what? Shit, okay. So we are gonna paste this.
A name, but rather it's going to be a username. So we can also say username right here. And the last one is going to be the bio. So it looks like I've.
Okay, and this is gonna be the bio. Oh fuck. There probably is a better way to do this in Vim, and I should look it up, but I don't want to break the flow that I have going on here. So this is going to be the bio, and we're probably going to change this.
Those two, the username is right here, the second to the last one. So we have a username, and then the last one is a bio. The name is bio. Well, is right here, the second to the last one.
What do you do here?
And the last one is going to be the bio. So it looks like I exchange those two, the username. So we can also say username this one 2 times. 1, 2. The second one is not going to be a name, but rather it's going to be a username. So we can also say username here. And the last one is going to be the bio. So it looks like I've exchanged those two. The username is right here, the second to the last one. So we have a username.
Yeah, this is going to be username. Okay. And this is bio. Cool.
And then the last one is a bio. The name is bio as well. And we don't want to render a form control input, but rather a text area, because we can enter more text in there. That's going to look like this. And it's going to have rows is equal to 10. And of course, import the text area by first installing it. So we can say npx chassis and latest, and we can do text area.
Okay. That should resolve this. Yep.
Intuitive it is. I don't even have to search for it in the documentation because I know it exists. So once I install it, it is done. And now I can go right here where we have the input in the documentation because I know it exists. So once I install it, it is done. Now I can go right here where we have the input. I can duplicate that and I can say text area coming from text area. There we go. Now if I scroll down, we have our input, we have our text area. This is looking much closer to what we need to have, which is this, but we're getting there. We still have some work. And finally, we have the button. This is it when it comes to the layout and the structure and all of the elements of our form. But of course, now we have to turn this into this. So let's get started with styling.
I'm already a little bit ahead, but I think the spacing needs to be adjusted a bit.
Styling, we can check if our styles work by modifying our button. So for example, we want to give a class name equal to bg-primary-500, and this should apply tailoring config. But as you can see, it cannot recognize the color, which means that it's not picking up on the styles. So our account profile is a component used within the onboarding, and the onboarding is a component used within the page that is within the auth layout. So if you go into here, you can notice that we're importing the globals.css. But for some reason, we only have the tailwind imports there, nothing else. At the start of the video, I did tell you to copy and paste the modified globals.css, but it is possible that it got overridden while I was installing ShadCN. So if that happened for you, simply add all of our globals one more time. And it is possible we have to do the same thing for our tailwind config. Yep, it looks like that it overrode it. So we need the tailwind config from the description as well. All of these files are in the GitHub just down below, the tailwind.config.js, as well as the global CSS. So simply copy it, import it in the layout, and immediately you can see that on our localhost onboarding, it looks much closer to what it should look like. It's just that ShadCN overrode our files, so now you know it for the future. Let's take a look at the errors, and it says there's a hydration error. It fails because the initial UI doesn't.
What am I coding here? I'm trying to build a social app kind of. So I am trying to learn Next.js and building this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this tutorial and use that code as the basis. I'm going to heavily modify it and build features on top of this code base for my own social app. So what it does is it's basically a simple platform where local communities, like communities in my city, can register, and it helps people. It helps you find and meet other people from other clubs and communities within the city. So that's the fundamental idea. I mean, I think I did a pretty okay job explaining it, but honestly, the thing is, I ran into a bunch of really cool clubs in the city lately that I hadn't known about and I was introduced to them by a couple of friends. So I was just wondering, how cool would it be if there was just a simple platform that allows you to discover other cool communities and other cool people in the city. So
match what was rendered on the server. This is one of the more common Next.js errors, and we can read a bit more about it right here. This happens with the incorrect nesting, using type of window, or even local storage. Some errors, and we can read a bit more about it right here. It does not match. So now you know it for the future. Let's take a look at the errors.
I'm pretty sure I fixed this. Yeah, I did.
It says there's a hydration error. It fails because the initial UI does not match what was rendered on the server. This is one of the more common Next.js errors, and we can read a bit more about it right here. This happens with the incorrect nesting, using type of window, or even local storage, sometimes even by using incorrectly configured CSS libraries. But another really common reason, which you might never suspect and which can be bothering you for hours, is browser extensions. So we often have many extensions in your Chrome or different browsers, but sometimes these are messing with our application. And Next.js being new as it is, allows for many great benefits, but sometimes extensions mess with it. So as soon as I disabled one of the extensions, everything started working normally, and no longer are we getting this error. So if you have the same one, the error is not in the code.
I use Safari for coding just because I feel like it's a little bit more optimized for Macs.
Rather, it's one of the extensions messing with your code. Great. Now let's compare this one final time to the final version. And as you can see, the labels are appearing to the left of the inputs, pushing to the right side, and in the final version, they appear on top. So let's quickly get that fixed, and that's going to be in the account profile within our form fields, specifically where we have the form label. The form label for the first four input is okay, but for the input ones, let's see, we have the form item, which has the class name of flex. We actually don't need item center in this case. We needed that just for the image, not for the regular ones. We need the full width, as we have here, and then gap 3. And then the form label has its corresponding styles. We have the form control below.
Oh, you think the idea will work?
And our form control in this case doesn't.
That's cool, man. Let's hope it does.
Have any styles, so it's even simpler than we anticipated. And finally, we need a flex dash call here.
Actually, there's a whole section in the beginning where I was talking about what we're trying to build and stuff. So my only real goal here is to get a couple people or like get a few hundred people to use the app. I'm not really thinking about monetizing or raising money and stuff like that yet. Um, so yeah,
make
I'm
the name
I'm
appear on
glad you
top of the
think
input.
that.
And there we go. This is the layout that we wanted to have. Wonderful. Later on, we're going to also fill these inputs with additional predefined values that we're going to get from Clerk. So now we have to copy the form input, label, and control, and the start of the input for other elements as well.
Shit, I missed a good chunk of this one.
So it's even simpler than we anticipated. And finally, we need a flex dash call here because that's going to make the full width, specifically where we have in the final version, they appear on top. So let's click final version. And as you can see, the labels are appearing to the left of the input.
I think they look the same, right? Yes, they do. Okay. Cool.
To the right side, and in the final version, they appear on top. So let's quickly get that fixed, and that's going to be in the account profile within our form fields, specifically where we have the form label. The form label for the first form input is okay.
You know what? I'm not gonna go through this. I'm just gonna look at the GitHub code. I feel like this is just gonna be a waste of time if I do it. What is this file called again? Account profile. Yep. Okay, I'm pretty sure we're almost all the way there. Let's see. The project is the most important. Yeah, I agree, man. I think so. Like I tried building a couple startups before this, but I feel like I was a little too caught up in like the tech and stuff like that. But what really matters is the problem. I think like the tech and the solution itself can change, but the problem should be something that that firstly you find that you are really passionate about, and secondly that a lot of other people find value in. I feel like the problem itself, at least I know enough people who face this problem, so yeah.
For the input ones, let's see, we have the form item, which has the flex.
Did you just collapse it? What
The
happened?
form label for. So let's quickly get that fixed, and that's going to be in the account profile within our fields, specifically where we have the form label. The label for the first form input is okay, but for the input ones, let's see, we have the form item.
Form label, okay.
Which has the class name of flex. We actually don't need item center in this case. We needed that just for the image, not for the regular ones. We need the full width, as we have here, and then gap 3. And then the form label has its corresponding style.
Okay, so he's making this a gap 3 and removing, right. I think CA capital W, yes, it removes both words including the hyphen. I'm using Vim.
We have the form control below, and our form control in this case doesn't have to have any styles, so it's even simpler than we anticipated. And
Actually, Vim bindings are super useful. I learned this last year, so I can navigate my entire IDE just using commands. There are still a few that I need to master. Like for instance, I have Command C bound to my Copilot, but then like if I'm using this and I hit Command C, it doesn't move my cursor here. Also, I think, okay, so let me see. If I want to switch to YouTube, I should be able to do Command Tab and then space.
the flex dash call here, because that's going to make the name.
So ideally, like at some point in the next couple of months, I want to be able to do, I want to be able to use my entire workflow just using my keyboard. Because I feel like it adds a lot to my productivity.
Any styles, so it's even simpler than we anticipated. And finally, we need styles. We have the form control below, and the regular ones. We need the full width, as we have here, and then gap 3.
Full width, gap 3, yes, we got it. I'm just gonna see what the name thing is, yes. Yeah, it should be here, I'm guessing. Is it name? Yes. Okay. With full flex column. And then you have text space semi-bold, text light 2, okay. Flex 1, I think he removed this. Where's form control? He did, he removed the styling completely, okay. Cool, let's remove this then. And a confirm input, no focus. I'm guessing he just copied and pasted this for all of them, so I'm just going to do the same. Okay, we have with full username, TextLite 2, semi-bold, a confirm, and he removed this. Okay. What is the bio? Does he change anything here? With full gap 3. Text base, semi-bold, TextLite 2, flex 1, he removes this. Okay, and I think that should be it. Let's see what this fixed. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any of the stylings here, because if I go ahead, coming back to this is going to be a pain. Is this? It's still slightly off. I think this is supposed to be on the next line.
And then the form label has its corresponding styles. We have the form control below, and our form control in this case have to have any styles, so it's even simpler than we anticipated. And finally, we need a flex dash col here, because that's going to make the name appear.
Okay, come on, next.
So we can simply say user.
I think this looks
looking exactly like
this is the same, right? No, it doesn't. Fuck. The bio is slightly messed up here, and I'm not sure why. With full gap 3. Do you guys see any difference here? Because it looks the same to me. Oh, okay. Okay, there is flex column, and this should fix it.
On the finished.
Yep. And we have a form, guys. Good stuff.
And of course, it's not going to say name, it's going to say bio right here. So we already have access to something .image right here. So let's do that next. Don't forget, we're already passing the full user object through props, so we can simply say user .image or an empty string. We can say a similar thing for all of these. So it's going to be user.name, username, and bio, and we can simply modify this. So name, username, and bio. And if we saved it.
Got it. Okay. Let's just go and change this then. Profile, photo, user, image. Okay. User photo. I just love that.
You can see that it's going to break, but not because we did something wrong.
The web development ecosystem is so advanced. It's at the point where they have entire social media apps. They have tutorials for entire social media apps. It's like the equivalent of this for game development would be you have a tutorial for building like an open world GTA game. I think it may already exist. Who knows? Let's see. Open world game tutorial. No, I don't think there's a complete end-to-end tutorial for building open world games. But the tutorial that I'm following, where was this? Oh, okay, next one. How to fix this? Shit. How can I stop this? What the fuck? Okay. Yes. I thought this was a checkbox for a second there. Okay, got it. Just copy this. I think so. In the recent update, it was changed to this, so this should work. Let's see. Come on, come on, come on. Yes, sir. I don't know how my photo got here, but I'm not complaining. Oh, okay, because I set the user. I'm getting the user object here. I'm guessing the user object comes from Clerk. Clerk is what I'm using for my authentication. Let's just go back to account profile and just make sure that, okay, so user, I don't know what this is being called. Probably here, yes, account profile. Passing the user data is this. Okay. Where is the current? Okay, yeah, it's being set here. So I'm taking the current user from Clerk and I'm passing that as an attribute, which is why you can see my photo here because I'm already signed in. So what should happen is if I go back to my landing page and log out, yeah, now it takes me to this screen. Now if I shouldn't be able to access the onboarding, I'm guessing, hopefully. Yeah, it doesn't allow me. But the first time I sign up, at least, it should take me to the app. I'm actually not sure what it redirects to. Ah, perfect. It redirects me to the landing page, but as you can see, the colors are a little bit messed up. I'm not sure why though. With my information already filled in. So yeah, the cool thing is, so now we need to actually build out the back end for this, which is what I'm actually excited about. The front end stuff for the most part is just busy work here. I'm probably just gonna hack something together from random stuff online for the final app. So
because Next.js is protecting us. In this case, we're trying to render an image that's coming from Clerk. Clerk immediately configured it. Once we logged in using Google, it picked out the user profile. So now we have to allow the hostname imageclerk.com to allow
yeah, already fix this.
a hostname that we're going to use later on. And more importantly, we are allowing the config.js from the GitHub gist down below from Clerk. And we can also allow all the other patterns that we're going to use later on. You can get the
okay. GitHub just should be here. Next.config. Yep. I think the format changes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you can just pass this as an array, so I'm just going to do that. Probably will be. It probably would be faster if I just type it out. Placeholder. Okay. Should work. Okay. Done with this. How far away
Next.config.js
are we from the back end? This is at 2 hours.
The GitHub gist down below. So simply paste it, and here we're going to add some additional patterns. But even more importantly, we are allowing the experimental server actions to be true because this is going to be necessary later on for our Mongoose project.
Wait,
but even more importantly, the modified next.config.js from the GitHub gist down below. So simply paste it, and here we're going to add some additional patterns. But even more importantly, we are allowing the
I'm pretty sure server actions are on by default here, but I'm not sure. Maybe I should turn on. Should I try the experimental stuff? Let's see what it brings up. Server actions. Okay. Server components, external packages, Mongoose.
server
So
actions.
I'm guessing, so MongoDB is going to be your database and Mongoose is your way of interfacing with that database.
True, because this is going to be necessary later on for our Mongoose
So
project.
the thing is,
If you don't,
I never really Despite the fact that I've used MongoDB quite extensively and I know Mongoose quite well, I never actually refer to it as Mongoose.
Server components, external packages.
Because I don't know, I just always just called it MongoDB. So whenever whenever I read Mongoose, it just doesn't register for a second.
To Mongoose, it's not going to know how to render those Mongoose actions, so it's not going to work. So please, while we're here in the next config, get it from down below and put it here. With that said, if we save this, go back and reload, let's see if it's going to automatically read the changes in the next config or not. It looks like not, so we'll have to rerun the application by running npm run dev. And
Maybe this will fix it? I don't know. Oh, it crashed. Okay. Invalid. Yeah. Experimental does. Yeah, it is default. Okay. This should fix it. It's just. I'm surprised there are actually some viewers. Now I need to be careful that I don't leak my environment variables, because I've done that before. Okay, no errors so far. Let's see. Let's reload this page. Yes, sir. Let's go. It's working. It looks great.
it automatically picked out the photo from my Google profile, the name, as well as the username. Right off the bat, because we're using the React hook form, Zod, and all that good bio, and then later on we'll be able to submit it. So for now, we have this pretty cool form, which is working right off the bat because we're using the React hook form, Zod, and all that good stuff. We're gonna explore how the validation works later on, so you won't be able to submit values that don't make sense. And before we proceed, we also have to make our photo upload work because not all users will be coming from Google. We also allow our users to come through GitHub or just through regular email and password. So they still have to get their cool photos uploaded right here and add all these additional fields. So let's get started with implementing the function which we have already started working on, which is the handle image upload. To make our image upload work, we can go all the way to the top of account profile and create a new use state field. Of course, we must not forget to import use state from React, and we can call it files and set files. Of course, the set files being the setter function to the files, and at the start, it can be equal to just an empty array. The type of this use state can be set to file, or more specifically, an array of files, which is going to look like this.
Wait, what?
The type of this use state, of course, the set files being the setter function to the files, and at the start, it can
Hey Chan, what's up?
be equal to just an empty array. The type of this use state can be set to file, or more specifically, an array of files, which is going to look like this.
Okay, got it. We shall go to the account profile and fix this. Account profile Zod. Okay, const files, set files. Okay, use state.
We can go into the handle image, and there we can read the file from the file reader. So const file reader is equal to new instance file reader, which we call as a function.
Okay, so all this does now, it just prevents the page from reloading. So now we're actually
And we can make a check if e.target.files.length, meaning if there is something. In that case, we can read the file by saying const file is equal to e.target.files 0. Then we can check right here. It says that the files does not exist on event target element. That's because this is not a regular element. It's an HTML input element. So if we do it like this, and if we fix this, it should be good. But now it's complaining. It says returns a file list object and a file type input. But now we get a different error saying e.target.files is possibly null. So maybe we can make a check if e.target.files and then e.targetfiles.length is greater than 1. In that case, we can make this here. We can also then set files, which can be equal to an array from e.target.files. If not, file.type.includes image, we simply exit out of the function.
Files do?
Return. And then, if that is not the case, we can say file reader dot on the load is equal to an
I don't understand any
is
of
equal
this
to
code. I'm just
there.
gonna type it out and then
Using
slowly
React
try
hook.
to break it down.
And finally, we can call a field change, which allows us to update that by passing the image data URL. We're doing this because we're using React hook form, and that's how we update the field. And finally, below, we can say file reader dot read
Wait.
React hook form, and that's how we call a field change, which allows
Handle image. Okay. So we are gonna. Okay, this is the. So instead of going through the tutorial, we're just gonna try to understand this ourselves. image. This comes right before the. Okay. Phew. Oh wait, I think I already created this. Yes, I did. Okay. So now we are gonna file reader is equal to new. Okay, we're initializing a package called file reader. Okay, if e dot target dot files. So we're checking if this file exists. And fuck, what files dot length is greater than 0. Okay. Property files does not exist in type. Okay. This probably has to do with this HTML input element. Yes, sir. Okay. Now we have okay, file is equal to e. This is like basic core JavaScript and I just forgot. Like it's been so long since I've done this. But I don't think it's that important, so it's fine. What is this set files? Cannot find name set files, neither can I. Let's see where this is coming from. Set files of which. This is, oh, okay, never mind. This is something I created. This is a function used to change the value of files. Okay, that makes sense. So I probably named it something else. Oh, okay, I just put the function in the wrong place. Just gonna copy this, paste it here, and it should work. One second, I'm gonna go get some water. I ran a half marathon yesterday, so I'm still quite dehydrated. Okay. Okay, now we are. So you're checking the file tab, checking if it's an image. If it's an image, you return it. I have no idea what this does. I have to. So file reader. Yes, I could just take my time, go through the course, but who has time for that? I do not have the patience. Wait, what? Oh. Should work. Image data URL event.target dot Can you guys hear the keyboard? Okay. So now we have a function that I kind of understand how it works, but I'm just gonna watch him actually
Update
code
that
it
by
out so I
passing the
can
image
understand it.
with a return, and then if element, which is the handle image upload. To make our image upload work, we can go all the way to the top of account profile and create a new use state field. Of course, we must
I got this.
can make a check if e.target.files.length, meaning if there is something. In that case, we can read the file by saying const file is equal to e.target.files 0. Then we can check right here. It says that the files does not exist on event target element. That's because this is not a regular element. It's an HTML input element. So if we do it like this, and if we fix this, it should be good. But now it's complaining that it says returns a file list object and a file type input. But now we get a different error saying e.target.files is possibly null. So maybe we can make a check if e.target.files and then e.targetfiles.length is greater than 1. In that case, we can make this here. We can also then set files, which can be equal to an array from e.target.files. If not, file.type.includes image, we simply exit out of the function with a return. And then, if that is not the case, we can say file reader dot on a load is equal to an async function where we get the event, and we can read the URL by saying const image data URL is equal to event dot question mark dot result question mark dot to string, or just an empty string in case it isn't there. And finally, we can call a field change, which allows us to update that by passing the image data URL. We're doing this because we're using React Hook form, and that's how we update the field. And finally, below, we can say file reader dot read as data URL, where we pass in the file. This should allow us to change the image. So I'll try to change it to this favicon, and we can see favicon right here, but it didn't change in the display. So let's look into our form, where we have the form field. We have the image. If there is a field.value of a profile photo, then we display field.value right here, which should update the actual photo. So it's called profile photo, and we are updating it right here, user.image or nothing. So if I reload the page and try one more time, yep, it still doesn't update it. Let's go to our function that sets our image, which is right here, handle image e field change. So let's see if we're properly passing the value. And this is looking good to me, so let's move away to it. There, we have the e.prevent default, which we need to have to prevent the browser reload. File reader, initializing a file reader right here after, checking whether the files actually exist. And this here should be larger than 0, not larger than 1, because we're working with arrays. So now that I fixed it.
Oh, okay. Let's see if this works. I'm just going to take a random file from my... It did not change. Weird.
Actually pick up the change here. And there we go, it's working. So now we can...
Wait, what? How did it work? Do I need to... Oh, fuck, it's not even running. Okay. Let me reload this page. See if that works. Did that fix anything? Images.domains is depreciated. What, really? Okay. I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT to do this. So I'm gonna change this to images.mode patterns. Oh shit, it hasn't been updated yet. Okay, I'm gonna use Perplexity. This is just, I don't, yeah. Okay. How do I now? From my Next.js config, can you change this to remote patterns? Okay. Actually, I don't think we need, I think I have Opus selected. It's not even working. Fuck. What's happening? Is my internet down? Okay, I have Opus. I think it's too slow. I'm just gonna use the default for now. Let's see, this should give me some code. Beautiful. Let's copy this. I'm guessing you just replace domains. Yeah. Okay. And we can delete this. Do you put anything on the port?
Change our profile photo.
Let me check this guy's code. Let's go to just next okay. Oh, he just skips over port altogether. Okay.
As well, we can change the name.
Now it should work. Remote patterns is not defined. What? Please work, please work, please work, please work. Okay, I'm just gonna upload this. Did it crash? Did it not work? What is happening? Okay, it seems like... Ah, perfect. Okay, this looks kind of weird. This is supposed to be circular. I don't know. Oh, it's probably the aspect ratio of the image itself. Let's see. Do I have a square picture? Doesn't look like it. Ah, this is square. Yeah. So this image needs to be cropped somewhat. So probably leave that for later. I think for now this is fine.
Name as well as the bio. And the last thing we have to do is implement the onSubmit function. The onSubmit is going to re-upload the new image and it's going to update the user in our database. We're talking about a user in our MongoDB database, which we haven't yet created. So once we finalize the front-end part of the onSubmit and once we pass the data to our backend, we'll be ready to start creating the backend side of our application. Isn't that and implementing all of the fantastic backend logic of our project.
Okay,
so let's finalize the submit function and soon after, let's get started.
If I kind of have an idea on what he's doing, I'm just gonna copy the code because it's faster. If I don't, I'm gonna watch through the video. Let's go to onSubmit. This is the gist. Yes, onSubmit. Okay. So what's happening here? We are getting the has image changed. I'm guessing. Okay, so we're just checking if the image has changed from the original. If the image has changed, we upload the file. What does start upload do? You know what? I'm just gonna go through the tutorial.
With the backend, to get started with our onSubmit function, we can first get the value from our profile photo. And we can do that by saying const blob. Usually the value from image is called a blob. And we can get that from values.profile_photo because we are setting it using React hook form right above. Here we have the set. But also .profile_photo because we...
Where is onSubmit passed from? Okay, found our handle submit.
We're setting it using React hook form right above. We have the set files, but also field change. And since this field is called profile photo, React hook form is going to update it automatically, which is why we're going to have this value. But of course, we don't know if the image has changed. So we can say const has image changed, and that's going to be equal to is base 64 image. which is a function to which we're going to pass that blob. Now, where is this function coming from? Well, it's going to come from our utils. Utils are known as utility functions. Functions.
Okay, wait. Okay, thank God I decided to go through the tutorial. There's no way I would have foreseen this. Const blob, values dot profile photo. Const has image changed, is base 64 image. Okay.
Reuse across your code.
Let's see what
So
this
let's
does.
visit our utils.ts within the lib folder. It was automatically created for us by ShadCN, but now we can add some additional things to it. Description down below, you can find a GitHub gist, and within that GitHub gist, you'll find the final utils.ts file, which you can simply paste right here.
No? Okay. I'm guessing this is the okay. Utils. So take this. Yeah.
Inside of there, you're going to notice some functions, which might seem a bit too overcomplicated, but not to worry, they weren't created by me, they were created by ChatGPT. So as you can see right here, we have this isBase64 image function, which we want to use, which takes in the image data as a string or a blob, and it simply tests the regular expression to see if this indeed is the image we're talking about. So this is pretty cool. I got this by simply saying,
You know, the most tiring part of streaming and coding, it's that I have to constantly keep talking. And my throat gets really dry.
a JavaScript function block of code that checks whether an image is base64, something like that. And it's going to provide you with the perfect function that you can use, but of course you can check it if it works. Now we have access to this export function is base64, so we can go back and we can import it from /lib/utils. And now we know whether a user has changed the image. Think about it. The image can also already be there at the start when we first load the account with Google. So this only has to happen if we re-upload the image. So if and we can provide you with the perfect function that you can use, but of course you can check it if it. Now we have access to this export function is base64. So we can go back and we can import it from lib/utils. And now we know whether a user has changed the image. Think about it. The image can also already be there at the start when we first load the account with Google. So this only has to happen if we re-upload the image. So if that is the case, we can say if has image changed, then we need to get the image response by saying const imgres is equal to, and now we have to upload it using a package called upload thing. So we can do that at the top by importing something known as use upload thing, which is a hook coming from @/lib/upload thing. That means that we have to create an additional file right here within the lib folder, which is going to be called upload thing.ts.
Oh, another cool thing is I have this thing called advanced new file. So I can just type in the path, and then for instance, now I need to create upload thing, right? So I can just type upload thing.ts. It automatically creates it for me. I don't have to go to the file thing. I forgot what this is called. The file tree. I don't have to go here every time. So okay, let's see what this does.
And this file simply needs to contain generate React helpers. It is a function used to generate the use upload hook and the
Oh man, this my head is already hurting.
options used to interact with the upload thing. So you simply need to copy the code from here. That's going
Something called API reference. I don't see it. Can I just Google that generate React helpers? I think this should be it. Is it? No. Upload button.
under the docs for the uploadthing.com, and then you can go to API reference React. And then if you scroll down to generate React helpers,
okay, found it. We're gonna copy this.
we copy this block of code, but this uploadthing.ts is also going to be within the GitHub just down below. Of course, modify this with the @ sign, and then we have to add an additional file at the API. So we of course have to have the backend for image upload. So now this means that we have to create a new file right within our app, within the API folder. So that's going to be API, as well as a new folder called upload thing.
What is that?
And then within it, we need to have two files. And for image up, this with the @ sign, copy this block of code, but this upload thing.ts is going to be within the GitHub just down below. Of course, modify this with the @ sign.
Okay, let's replace this.
Then we have to add an additional file at the API route. So we of course have to have the backend for image upload. So now this means that we have to create a new file right within our app, within the API folder. So that's going to be API, as well.
Man, this is cool. Okay. I'm just gonna.
As a new folder called upload thing. And then within it, we need to have two files. The first one is going to be core.ts. And the second one is going to be a route.ts. And right here, if you go to Next.js setup using the app router, you'll be able to.
Okay, so we go to
Yes.
upload thing. Okay.
See the first steps that we have to make. Now,
Let's just go to app first. API slash fuck. API slash upload thing slash core.ts should create the, and we have another file called route.ts. Cool.
always use the documentation when we have access to it. So here, they even provide us with a full example of how to create the core.ts file, so we can
Okay, let's try understanding what's happening here. We have an image uploader. This. Okay, so this is what this is the code that executes between the front end and the server. So when I'm trying to upload something, what's gonna happen here is we are going to check if we're going to make sure that the maximum size of the file is 4 megabytes, and then we set up a couple of permissions here. So we want to make sure that the user is authenticated. And we are and if they are authenticated, we return some metadata. And once the upload is completed, we log a couple stuff. Okay. I think it should be cool.
and paste it in the core.ts. And then the second step is to create a Next.js API route using the file router. So let's simply copy that as well.
Okay. Oh wait, was this JS? No, it is JS. What the fuck? Okay. This should work out of the box. Okay. I'm pretty sure this is going to be quite useless. Problem is that auth function expects a request object as an argument. What? So wait, why can't I just do this? Can I just do next request undefined? No. I just need the type. Okay, let's see if he runs into the same problem.
Paste it into the route. Finally, we need to create a utils upload thing.
Upload thing. Ah, man, this is so exhausting. I'm just going to use the route. Okay. All the best, bro. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Ah, fuck. The TS. What am I supposed to use instead? Deprecated. Oh, sorry, deprecated. Create next route handler. Oh man, this looks way more complicated. And also this is from the docs, so I'm not really sure why. Create next route handler. Okay. I know this whole thing is really confusing, but I'm just gonna.
We've done just now. And finally, use it within our file, which we're going to do later on. But for now, we need to create a utils upload thing, which is we've done just now. And finally, use it within our file, which we're going to paste it in the core.ts. And then the second step is to create a Next.js API route using the file router. So let's simply copy that as well and paste it into the route. Finally, we create a utils upload thing, which is what we've done just now. And finally, use it with our file, which we're going to do later on. But for now, I believe we're good. I'm going to show you how to modify the core TS and the route TS to actually make it work. So here we have our file router. Then instead of image upload, we're going to switch this over to media. We have a function with an image of a max file size of 4 megabytes.
I don't understand why this is quite outdated code. Either I am in the wrong place in the docs, but it doesn't say anywhere that this is deprecated. Seems unlikely though. See, this only has 3 steps, and the tutorial has 4. So I'm guessing there
as well as we're going to add a max file count equal to 1.
But then I
of course, there
copied
has to be a
the
comma
same
here.
code from the docs, and it still doesn't work. So
Then we have a middleware where we get our user, but we're not going to be getting it from auth because you can see this is a fake auth action. We want to get it from click. Then create a utils upload thing, which is what we route using the file router. So let's simply copy that as well and paste it into which we're going to. We have our file router. Then image upload, we're going to switch this.
wait, what?
Of how to create the first steps that we have to make. Now we should always the route. Then instead of image upload, we're going to switch this over media. We have a function with an image of a max file size of 4 megabytes, as well as we're going to add a max file count equal to 1.
Max file count and 1. Okay, cool.
Of course, there has to be a comma here. Then we have a middleware where we get our user, but we're not going to be getting it from auth because you can see this is a fake auth action. Rather, we want to get it from clerk. So let's simply import something at the top, and that something is going to be import current user coming from add clerk / Next.js. Then we can simply call it right here, const get user is equal to async function, where we simply await give us access to the user, which means that we are authorized. And now instead of we can simply call await.
I don't have
Get
to do any kind of state management here. Just directly fetch the user. We'll probably migrate this to Nextauth later, but you know what, for now, this is the quickest way to get things up and running. Okay, let's get user async. Wait. Okay. Wait, what? No exported.
Right here. That's going to give us the user, which means that we are authorized.
User, okay.
And then we have the user ID being returned here. Then on complete, we're simply console logging things.
Oh, I can remove this. What is this error? Has no exported member current user. How about I just Google this? Current user next, no wait, clerk, next.js. Let's see. Okay, I'm supposed to use this. Why don't I, wait. Yeah, why didn't I just do this? Fucking hell. Okay, so I don't know how long I've been coding for. Oh. Let me check the length of the stream. It has been 1 hour 40 minutes. That's a good chunk of time. And we have made decent progress as well. But I really want to get through the backend stuff today before I finish. Callan says good luck. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I hope you are doing well.
And this is more or less it. We have a function that's going to upload our files. Now we can also look into the route that we copied. And this is more or less it. We have a function that's going to upload our files. Now we can also look into the route that we copied from their docs. This is more or less it. We have the user ID being returned right here. Then on upload complete.
User, okay, great. Yeah, should fix it.
Simply console logging things, and this is more or less it. We have a function that's going to upload our files. Now we can also look into the route that we copied from their docs, which is right here. And here we simply have our file router coming from that/core. The router, file router, this is more or less it. This simply exposes whatever we created right here, which is going to serve us for image upload.
Wait.
Now we can also
Okay, maybe I should
load
lower
complete.
the speed.
Simply console logging things, and this is more or less it. We have a function that's going to upload our files. Now we can also look into the route that we copied from their docs, which is right here. And here we simply have our file router coming from that/core. The router, file router, this is more or less it. This simply exposes whatever we created right here, which is going to serve us for image upload. Upload thing was created to be really simple, so we'll see that in action. But of course, the next step is now to actually use that upload button or the upload thing to upload images. So let's close out of these routes, upload things, and let's move back to our account profile, inside of which we're now importing this use upload thingy. So what we can do here is we can actually use it, and we're going to define it right here as a hook by saying const start upload is equal to use.
JS, yeah, what about it?
Upload thing, and we're going to pass in a string of media inside of it. And now we start upload thing, and we're going to
Okay. Actually, just gonna do this. Use. Then we can. North Indian, is that a question? I'm not a North Indian. I'm actually from the South.
pass in a string of media inside of it.
Media.
And now
okay.
we have this start upload, which we can use right here on the on submit. So if we have the image response, and now
No, you don't have to apologize. I was just.
we have this start upload thing.
I was just not thinking too much into the question because my mind is just focused on the code. No, you're not. You're not. Don't worry. I'm actually. So I've been coding for, I think, an hour, 45 minutes now. So I could actually really use a break. It's not about distraction. It's just that my mind is kind of. I'm just a bit tired.
And we're going to pass in
But the thing is, I can't stop. I really want to finish the backend for this today because I'm really excited to learn, or rather relearn parts of MongoDB and Mongoose. Let's chit chat. Sure. What's up? So, Calvin, where are you from? So typically when I have a break, I hang out at. Oh shit! I forgot I set this up. How was my work today? It was actually. I procrastinated quite a bit today, because um, I actually don't even remember because yesterday I'd run a half marathon, so I was quite exhausted. My legs were hurting, so I decided to take half the day off. Oh, you're from Kerala. Oh shit, that's damn cool, man. How about you? What do you do? Do you code? I don't even remember. I think this is one sec. This extension is called one sec. Okay, I'm just gonna ignore this. Wait, what? Hmm. Mm-hmm. You're 17. Oh, okay. So you're still in school. Oh wow, we have 4 viewers. This is cool. Okay, I'm actually gonna I'm gonna keep talking to you guys, but I'm still gonna keep working because I really want to get this done today.
String of media inside of it. And now we have this start upload, which we can use right here on the onSubmit. So if we have the image response,
I eventually want to. So once I'm done with this, once I'm done building this, I'm gonna use this code base as like the base for what I'm trying to do. So I'm gonna build features on top of this. This is just a way for me to get reacquainted with Next.js and some of the front end stuff because I'm not too familiar. I've been working with Flutter for the last year and a half, so I've been building for mobile. My HTML, CSS is still pretty mediocre. I know the basics, I know the fundamentals a little bit, but there's still a long way to go. Okay, Callan says I do code in Python, also Linux and network concepts. Oh, that's cool. Is that part of your curriculum? What do you code? Like, what kind of projects do you do?
we're going to get the image response from.
So before this, a fun story. So this is actually my second attempt at building this. The first attempt, it took me. We spent a year. I had a full-fledged team. I had like two. So I had hired two people to actually code this out for me while I handled the business stuff. But that was a big mistake in hindsight because, like, basically whenever my developers didn't deliver, the entire company was essentially on a standstill. So the thing is, both of them were working part-time. One of them was in college, one of them had a full-time job. So there was obviously like there were certain times when they just couldn't work, right? So at that point, even I couldn't do much because I couldn't code. So I'm trying to prevent that this time. This time I'm trying to take a more proactive role in the tech. How many languages do you know? So I actually know quite a few. I've been coding since I was 6. So my first language was like Basic and Logan and stuff. But since then I've picked up. So my primary language in the beginning was Java, and then I did a bit of Ruby. But then, like, now if you ask me what I actually know, it's just Python, it's JavaScript, and that's it, I guess. Yeah, that's it. So I think those two are more than enough for a majority of the stuff you need to do. Am I interrupting your conversation? No, you're not. You're not. It's chill. Don't worry, like, I'm not really like, I'm not that stringent about my work schedule either. Any advice? I would say the biggest problem, okay, so Sumit, I actually knew way more than 6 languages, but that's actually a really bad thing, and I'll tell you why. And Callan, this also kind of ties into what you were saying, or the advice that I would give you. It is that don't learn tech stuff just for the sake of it. By which I mean, like, don't just start a YouTube course where, like, you're trying to learn JavaScript or Next.js or stuff like that. I would say pick a project first and then try to build it out. Like, you learn stuff while you're building it. Don't just go in and learn languages for the sake of it. I think at its peak, I used to know 6-7 languages because I just used to learn stuff for the sake of it. At the time, I was trying to get a job after school or college, and I was trying to do some freelance work. So I thought learning as much as possible would be useful. But if I could go back and do it, what I would do is I would just pick a couple projects that I was really interested in. I would just try figuring out how to build them. Like, languages don't really matter. Like, as long as you understand the core concepts and you understand how stuff works, I think that's more important. JS rocks for sure, yeah. So initially, back in the day, like 10-15 years ago, JavaScript was absolutely horrible. It still is somewhat. If you use like vanilla JavaScript, a lot of JavaScript doesn't make a lot of sense. But I think over time, because of the community, because of the packages, and because of how flexible it is, yeah, like now it's really nice to work on. You look like you're from Bangalore. Yes, I am from Bangalore. What does that mean? Which okay, which how do I put this? Why do you say I look like I'm from Bangalore? Is it the accent? Is it the beard? Or is it my room? You know, actually, now that I'm actually streaming while coding, there's a lot of fun. It's nice to like hang out with people while I'm coding.
Await, start upload, and we're going to pass in the files, which is exactly one file. Since this is await, we also have to turn this into an async function. So we can say const on submit is equal to async function. We also have to turn this into an async function. And we're going to pass in the files, which is exactly one file. Since this is await, we also have to turn
Just a guess? That was a brilliant guess, man.
this into an async function. So we can say const on submit is equal to async function, like this. Here. So if we have the image response, rather we're going to get the image response coming from await, start upload, and we're going to pass
Mon is just annoying. Why do you say that?
the files, which is exactly one file. Since this is await, we also have to turn this into an async function. So we can say const submit is equal to async function, like this.
Why does he turn it into an arrow function? That's so unnecessary. You can just do this. Oh wait, I think it goes before this. Async. Yes. This is the function, right? Okay, so you're checking if the image has changed, and then if the image has changed, you upload the file.
There we go. This is the function block. So this is looking good. We're uploading that image, and then we can check if imgres image response exists. And if the imgres 0.file URL exists, that means that we can actually update the values. So we can say values.profile_photo is equal to imgres 0.file URL. This is pretty cool. React hook form, you don't have to care about use state and setting the state using the setter function. You can just mutate the values like so, and it's going to take things at the back end. Now, this is great. We now have the image, and we are ready to submit all of the data that we're getting from our form. So we're finally there. Here, we're going to have to call a backend function to update the user profile. Wonderful. This finally allows us to close all of the files, but where we were, line 70.
You are carrying any startups? I'm not really sure what that means. If you're asking me if I run any startups right now, not. I'm not running any right now. So I was working on a startup before this, but the team kind of fell apart because everyone wanted to do their own separate thing. So the plan right now is, at least for the first stage, like which is what you're watching me do. I'm trying to build it out myself. This is just so I because I feel like I have a lot. I learn a lot if I do this. And then like once I have maybe a couple users and once I start generating some revenue, I will actually build out a team and scale it. So right now this is my only thing. Apart from this, I do a bit of consultation stuff as well, which I will probably stream. I run some marketing campaigns for a couple companies, which is what I do on the side. I will show you how that works tomorrow, because since today is a Sunday, I'm just focusing on my own stuff. I hope that answers your question. Okay, what is image res? Okay, I didn't declare it here. Has image changed? Oh, okay. No, it's not an SMMA. SMMA. It's so essentially what I do is I find other agencies abroad in the UK and the US, and I help them scale. So I used to run an agency before this when I was in college, where we primarily built websites for other people. So I understand how it works. So let's say you are an agency who's working off of the US, right? So what I would do is I would be like, and let's say you're making $10,000 a month. What I would do is I would come in and I would just say, hey, listen, I would take your company from $10,000 to like 40, $50,000, and I would do that primarily by restructuring your company a bit. I would make an offer for you so you can charge more per client, and also I would get clients through the door. So it's a combination of a couple things, but essentially I help your agency grow. You get any commissions? Yeah, the entire thing is a commission based model. So these agencies don't pay me anything. I collect 30% upfront for any conversion that I get through the door. So, but the thing is, it's also high risk because all the money that I spend on marketing and stuff is on me. So I cover I cover all that money. I take all the risk, and if it works out, I get 30% commissions. But since I know what I'm doing, it's fine. For people who don't know what they're doing, you can lose a lot of money, especially because if you run ads in the US, especially, it's very expensive. And even for stuff like, I wouldn't really run ads for this kind of a company because it can get quite expensive. Damn, how much have you made? I actually have no idea. But on average, per client, I make probably like $3,000 to $6,000 a month. Right now, I'm only dealing with one client, but last month I had three. So the thing is, I wanted to slow that down a bit just so I can focus on building a startup, because this is actually what I want to do. I can always go back into consulting if I need more money, but right now I'm lucky enough to be in a stage where I can focus on a few other things. What is the start upload? Okay. I'm guessing this is a file I made. Wait. Upload thing? No? Okay, let's check this out. Go to account profile. No, not 30% of 3,000. I made 3,000 total. So that means I generated $10,000 for the company. So sometimes so that essentially means I generate somewhere between $10,000 and $60,000 for an agency that I consult for. So I get 30% of that, which means I netted three to $6,000 is what I get paid.
Of the account profile, and then access to close all of the files. But remember where we were, lines 7 of the account profile. This finally allows.
I'm looking for start upload. It's not here. Is it a Facebook ads? Depends on the agency. So for some people, generally for B2B stuff, email marketing works better. For more consumer facing stuff, you would run ads. Like I said, that's why I get paid what I get paid. It's because I know what needs to be done. Use upload thing media path name. Okay. So like if you were starting an agency now, like how would you know what you need to run? Like would you run email campaigns? Would you run Facebook ads? How do you know which one works best? So when I was running my agency, I had to go through that trial and error to figure out what works and what doesn't, right? So has image changed? Oh, it should be right here then.
Form the function on is rather we're going to get the image response coming from await start upload, and we're going to pass in the files.
How did you build a portfolio? I did work for free. So initially, when I start, I will offer to, I will reach out to people and just offer to build them stuff for free. I would give them. I would still do my best work because a lot of these times, yeah, social media marketing is super competitive. I don't. So I believe that anything that's super competitive is not worth getting into because actually, social media might be the exception because there's always infinite demand for marketing, right? You can always have more customers, but how would you differentiate yourself, right? The problem with very competitive markets is that if you have 10 people doing the same thing, more than likely the client is going to go with the one that's the cheapest or the one with the most established portfolio. And most people lie in the middle. They either don't have a extensive portfolio with top-notch companies like Microsoft, Slack, all of that stuff, or like they're not the cheapest. Like you don't want to be the cheapest because then it's just a bit to the bottom. So most people are stuck in that middle zone where, and that's the part where that's the worst place to be because you won't get any clients there.
Which is exactly one file.
I'm not sure where the start upload is coming from.
Define it right here as a hook by saying const start upload
Aha.
is equal to.
Thought I. Okay. Oh, okay. So I put this in the wrong place. This has to be here. Const start upload. What's your main? I don't have a main. I just do whatever needs to be done. So since I'm an entrepreneur, right, I don't really need to know the one thing in depth. So I can, let's say I'm doing email marketing. Once I'm generating a certain amount of money, I can just hire someone who's better than me at email marketing and let them handle it. So I know enough to get things done, but I only learn I only learn a handful of things in depth. So I know how to run basic Facebook ads. I know how to run email campaigns. I know how to run Twitter ads. I know a bunch of stuff, but I know very few in depth. Like I know email marketing in depth. Facebook marketing I've done here and there. Use upload thing. Okay. Wait, what? Expected 1 to 2 arguments.
Use upload thing, and we're going to pass in a string of media inside of it.
Okay. Now we move this.
And now we have this start upload, which we can use right here on the onSubmit.
OnSubmit again goes before the return. Okay, I think I got it. It's here. Yes.
So if we have the image response, rather we're going to get.
Okay, now we can check.
Response. Since that means that we can actually update the values. So we can see values.profile underscore.
Entrepreneur, you got a business mate. Isn't that the definition of an entrepreneur? Someone who runs a business?
Photo is equal to img res 0 file URL. This
Image res 0. I think the file format is messed up. Start upload. Let's see what kind of attributes this gives us. Custom ID, size, URL. Okay, so they changed the name. It should just be URL. I think it should be. I hope it's the same. This is just very badly maintained documentation. It's like I don't know what the upload things like. These docs are just straight up broken. They're so outdated. Is it like a startup over? No, it's not a startup. Okay, so this is actually a pet peeve of mine where people call any kind of new business a startup. Here's how I define a startup. A startup is you bringing something new to the market that doesn't exist before. Like, for example, if I'm starting an SMAA agency, social media SMMA agency, you are definitely not the first person to do it. You're not doing anything new. You're not bringing anything new to the market. So that's more akin to your traditional. It's a service business. That's how I would define it. A startup is someone who tries to build something new that hasn't existed before, that adds value to other people. So, for instance, when Amazon started, Amazon was the first one to sell stuff online at that scale. And not just that, they built the entire distribution system to deliver it. So before that, home delivery for books was not a thing when Amazon started. Like, you had to go physically to a bookstore and buy stuff. Jeff Bezos basically set up the infrastructure that didn't exist before, and he brought take Tesla for example. Electric cars were not at the level where actually SpaceX would be a better example. SpaceX, we did not have rockets that could land before SpaceX. So that's something that did not exist before. So to answer your question, I would not define it as a startup. It's a business, but I do not intend on running it for a long time. That's just a business to pay the bills, essentially. Like, I cannot imagine myself running this forever. My goal has always been to build a startup. So I forgot what I was doing. All right, the documentation for this is completely broken. I have no.
Be cool with React
I
Hook
just have
form.
to figure stuff
You
out
don't have to
based
care
on
about
the prompts here.
use state and setting the state using the setter function. You can just mutate the values like so, and it's going to take care of things at the backend. Now, this is great. We now have the image, and we are ready to submit all of the data that we're getting from our form. So we're finally there. Here, we're going to have to call a backend function.
Where in Bangalore? I live in Yelahanka. Oh, I live near JP Nagar. I live in Banchankri.
To update the user
So
profile.
south. Yelahanka is quite a few ways away.
Wonderful. This finally allows us to close all.
Oh man, thank God I'm done with this part. Now we finally get to the back end. So this stream is gonna go on till I finish the back end stuff.
Files, but remember where we were, line 7 of the profile, and then get started with creating our backend. Pretty exciting stuff, right? Let's clear our browser tabs a bit. I know while we're developing, we often have
Sumit, I didn't know you're from Bangalore. That's cool.
a lot of open tabs.
Now it makes sense. Now it makes sense why you assumed I was from Bangalore.
The only thing we need is going to be our Figma, which is not really important. We have the finished website, which is deployed right here. And then we have our current developing website. So we only need that, and we are ready to get started with the backend. And writing backend code in modern Next.js 13 applications is a breeze. Let me explain why. To give you a better idea why, I want to use this interface where it allows me to draw some shapes. So in general, the majority of pages in our new Next.js 13 app are going to be server-side rendered. So server-side rendered page, right? Or
Man, if I'm able to finish this today, it's going to be fucking brilliant.
at least we should strive to create the majority of our pages to be server-side rendered. Why do we want this? Because we're going to have SEO benefits, increased loading times, and much more. Now, while we have server-side rendered pages, this doesn't mean that we cannot have any kind of client components inside of it. So we can still have a couple of client. This doesn't mean that we cannot have any kind of client components inside of it. So we can still have a couple of client-based components like this within the server-side rendered page, but the page itself is rendered on the server. Cool. So why does this matter? Of our pages to be server-side rendered page, right? Or at least we should strive going to be server allows me to draw some shapes. So in general, the majority of pages in our new Next.js 13 app are going to be server-side rendered. So server-side rendered page, right? Or at least we should strive to create the majority of our pages to be server-side rendered. Why do we want this? Because we're going to have SEO benefits, increased loading times, and much more. Now, while we have server-side rendered pages, this doesn't mean that we cannot have any kind of client components inside of it. So we can still have a couple of client-based components like this within the server-side rendered page, but the page itself is rendered on the server. Cool. So why does this matter? Well, before we had this entire server, right? Let's call this a Node.js server. And this is it. All the server code was here, and here we could have different API endpoints. So let's say this is API endpoint 1, we have API endpoint 2, and finally API endpoint 3. At least that's how it was before. And then when we had a website, we have, of course, a front-end or a client-side React app that looks like this, that has, of course, many different components, just as this one has. So that's going to look like this. And what we were doing is we were making calls to this Node.js server. So we had some one-way calls, which looks like this. For example, this component, or let's put it this page, was making a request to this API endpoint that looks like this. So this API endpoint was, let's say, to fetch the user. So we have fetch user. And then this would actually make a call to our database. Let's say that this right here is our DB. So this means that our fetch user would make a call to the DB, which would then return the data over to the Node.js server, which would then ship it back to the client-side React application, right? Makes sense. This is pretty cool, and this is how we have been developing the application so far. But let me show you what we can do right now. We can completely eliminate the need for backend API routes. Why? Because we can do application, then return, let's say that this, right? Makes sense. This is pretty cool, and this is how we have been developing the application so far. But let me show you what we can do right now. We can completely eliminate the need for backend API routes. Why? Because we already are on the server side. So here we have different client-side components, right? This is a component 1, component 2. And if we were to make a request from a client-side rendered component to our page, we would have to call a backend API. And in Node.js, the way to create that backend API is to put it in the API folder and then create a specific route. For example, fetch user, like so. This is okay, and you can do this for some specific things. But a new paradigm that appeared in Next.js 13, and which we're going to teach in much more depth in our ebook and the upcoming Next.js 13 course. By the way, if you're watching this video and if you're liking it, you're going to love what we do there. It's going to be like a 10-hour plus course with all the materials and here as well. If you had a client-side component, you would have to make a request to the backend API. But considering that we're already rendering everything on the server side, the page itself, which we're going to put as this box here, can just make a call to whatever. It can be a regular JavaScript function. So no longer we have to have the Node.js server with backend routes because our entire application is server-side rendered. So that means that none of this is going to happen. Essentially, we can have a regular JS function, which we can call an action. So JS function, action. We simply make a call from our page to here, and then we make a call to here. And all of this time, we're staying within our Next.js application, like this. And all of it feels natural because we're simply writing JavaScript code at all times, not creating additional backend servers. I hope this makes sense. This is pretty powerful, and I do believe it's going to change and shape the way that the future web applications are developed.
Okay, let me see what I understood here. Oh shit, it's already 12:20. Okay, so let's break this down. We have so the way it traditionally worked was you had your client-side application. side application makes call to the server Node.js. Node.js fetches stuff from the database, returns back to the front end application, and then it's rendered. So in Next.js, the way it works is we completely eliminate all the completely eliminate the node intermediary server, since all pages are server side rendered, and we can make calls directly via JS functions. Yes, I think this is how they explain it. So what I do is, after I learn something, I just try to take a couple notes. I write down what I understood, and then I can feed it into either ChatGPT, or I use Perplexity, and I can just say, while this is a comparison between Redis API calls and Next.js, is this accurate? And it'll tell me, it'll fill up any gaps in my knowledge. Yeah, so there's clearly something I didn't understand here. Client-side application makes a request to a separate server. Okay. Server fetches data. Server returns it as a response to the client-side application. Okay. Next.js React frameworks combines client-side rendering and server-side rendering. For traditional client-side rendering, the process is similar to traditional API calls. Pre-renders the React components and sends fully. Okay, this is actually kind of how I understood it in the first place. So I don't know, maybe it's just the way I interpreted the tutorial, but okay, this makes sense. So in your traditional applications, you had the client make a call to the server, and static generation, fetch data, request, and pre-render. Okay, got it.
Great. So with that said, let me show you how we can create our first.
I guess he was talking primarily about the way you structured the code.
Not route, but
not
action.
how it
Within the
inherently
lib
works.
folder, we can create a new folder called actions. And considering that we're working with the users now, we can create a new file called user.actions.ts. Here, working with the users now, we can create a new file, create a new folder called actions. And considering that we're working with the users now, we can create a new file called user.actions.ts.
Okay, so now we go to lib action/user.actions.ts. Okay. And then this is an age where rather we are trying to sell the startup than to maintain it. I think selling a startup is much like, you can't start a startup with the hopes to sell it, because you never know who's the buyer. Like I guess you can. There are certain people who build startups specifically for selling it, which is not like inherently a bad thing in my opinion. But yeah, like I see where you're coming from. I don't know if I fully agree with it though.
We can say
This is correct, right? User.actions.ts.
use server. This that we're using server actions. And of course, you can read more about server actions right here. They're in alpha. And this is going to allow you to simply specify when specific code should be rendered only on the server. Pretty cool stuff. Now let's go back here.
When specific code should be rendered on the server. Okay.
Inside of here, we first have to make a connection to Mongoose, which was that connection to the database that I was telling you about. Which means that we can create a new file within the lib, and it's going to be called mongoose.ts. Inside
Lib mongoose.ts. Apply to YC. I applied once in the beginning of last year, but we got rejected. Haven't applied again. But if I can get a couple thousand users for this, I definitely will apply again.
here, we want to import mongoose from mongoose. We can say let is connected is equal to false, and this is going to be a variable to check the connection status. Then we can export const.
Yeah, I forgot what mongoose does exactly. Where did my perplexity go? Did I close it? Okay. So we are gonna explain differences between Mongoose, Node.js, and can't an app be built by just native languages? Of course it can, but it's double the work. So especially at the early stages of a startup, it doesn't make sense for you to build two different apps when you have no users. So the cool thing about React Native and Flutter is you can just build one and maintain it for both iOS and Android. Eventually, like once you have millions of users, I guess it makes sense to transition into native development. But until that point, it doesn't really make sense. You can ship things much faster if you just build using. So if you're already a web developer, like you transitioning into React Native is much easier than native app development. So it doesn't make sense for you to firstly like learn Swift and learn Java, learn the whole of the Kotlin framework and building native. And then like building two different versions of the same app makes no sense. Just on time around. Oh, okay. Minimal web application built on top of Node.js. Okay, this makes sense. So Node.js allows you to run JavaScript code outside of your web browser, primarily for scripting to run server-side code. Express is like a layer on top of that adds a bunch of functionality, and Mongoose is just a way for you to format your data. So I got the Mongoose part completely wrong. Isn't React Native just JS? Yes, it is, but React Native is a completely different JavaScript framework. So like it has its own architecture. It has a lot. So it's like, okay, I have a Volkswagen and I have a truck. Like fundamentally they're the same thing. They're like four-wheel transport, but then they are foundationally very different things. Mongoose's database side, yes, not exactly. So it's basically for modeling data. So like if I'm passing some data, let's say I'm passing my name to the backend, it basically it's to tell the backend that, hey, this is a string and you should store it as a string. So that if someone were to, let's say, upload some random image and try to pass that off as your name, it should ideally throw an error, or it shouldn't accept it at all.
Connect to DB is equal to an async function like so. And by the way, I have a simple question for you. You saw those diagrams that I made explaining you how the backend works. If you're watching this, please,
I want to see that again.
using the file router. So let's simply copy. So we're finally there. Here, we're going to have to call JS. At least we should strive. It allows me to draw a breeze. Let me explain why. To give you a better idea why, I want to use this interface where it allows me to draw some shapes. So in general, the majority of pages in our new Next.js 13 app are going to be server-side rendered. So server-side rendered page, right? Or at least we should strive to create the majority of our pages to be server-side rendered. Why do we want this? Because we're going to have SEO benefits, increased loading times, and much more. Now, while we have server-side rendered pages, this doesn't mean that we cannot have any kind of client components inside of it. So we can still have a couple of client-based components like this within the server-side rendered page, but the page itself is rendered on the server. Cool. So why does this matter? Well, before we had this entire server, right? Let's call this a Node.js server. And this is it. All the server code was here, and here we could have different API endpoints. So let's say this is API endpoint 1, we have API endpoint 2, and finally API endpoint 3. At least that's how it was before. And then when we had a website, we have, of course, a front-end or a client-side React app that looks like this, that has, of course, many different components, just as this one has. So that's going to look like this. And what we were doing is we were making calls to this Node.js server. So we had some one-way calls, which looks like this. For example, this component, or let's put it this page, was making a request to this API endpoint that looks like this. So this API endpoint was, let's say, to fetch the user. So we have fetch user. And then this would actually make a call to our database. Let's say that this right here is our DB. So this means that our fetch user would make a call to the DB.
What I don't understand here is this fundamentally is the same, even in Next.js.
Then return the data over to the Node.js server, which would then
not like you eliminate this completely, like he says later.
Back to the client-side React application, right? Makes sense. This is pretty cool, and this is how we have been developing the application so far. But let me show you what we can do right now. We can completely eliminate the need for backend API routes. Why? Because we already are on the server side. So here we have different client-side components, right? This is a component 1, component 2. And if we were to make a request from a client-side rendered component to our page, we would have to call a backend API. And in Node.js, the way to create that backend API is to put it in the API folder and then create a specific route. For example, fetch user, like so. This is okay, and you can do this for some specific things. But a new paradigm that appeared in Next.js 13, and which we're going to teach in much more depth in our ebook and the upcoming Next.js 13 course. By the way, if you're watching this video and if you're liking it, you're going to love what we do there. It's going to be like a 10-hour plus course with all the materials and everything you need to know to be a professional Next.js developer. So if you haven't already, get the first chapters of the ebook down below, and you'll also be notified once the course is launching. So with that said, let me still teach you all of that here as well. If you had a client-side component, you would have to make a request to the backend API. But considering that we're already rendering everything on the server side, the page itself, which we're going to put as this box here, can just make a call to whatever. It can be a regular JavaScript function. So no longer we have to have the Node box here, can just make a call. Already rendering everything on the server side, the page itself, which we're going to put as this box here, can just make a call to whatever. It can be a regular JavaScript function. So no longer we have to have the Node.js server with backend routes because our entire application is server-side rendered. So that means that none of this is going to happen. Essentially, we can have a regular JS function, which we can call an action. So JS function, action. We simply make a call from our page to here, and then we make a call to here. And all of this time, we're staying within our Next.js application, like this. And all of it feels natural because we're simply writing JavaScript code at all times, not creating additional backend servers. I hope this makes sense. This is pretty powerful, and I do believe it's going to change and shape the way that the future web applications are developed. Great. So with that said, let me show you how we can create our first backend, not route, but action. Within the lib folder, we can create a new folder called actions. And considering that we're working with the users now, we can create
an action. I should get it.
Click start. Let me show you how we.
He's going to host it on Atlas, I'm guessing.
Which means that we can create a new file within the lib, and it's going to be called mongoose.ts. Is equal to false, and this is going to be a variable to check the connection status. Then we can export const connect to db is equal to an async function like so. And by the way, I have a simple question for you. You saw those diagrams that I made explaining you how the backend works. If you're watching this, please let me know in the comments down below if you'd want me to explain more stuff while I'm coding through those diagrams. I can get a graphical tablet and explain more concepts on a deeper level. So if you'd like to see more of that, please let me know. If not, just comment something else about the video. Great. With that said, let me show you how to create this connect to DB function. So we can say mongoose.set, and we can set a strict query to be equal to true. This is to prevent unknown field queries. Then we need to have a specific MongoDB URL to connect to. So if there isn't a process.env.mongodb_URL, in that case, we can return a console log that's going to say MongoDB URL not found. Then we can check if we're already connected. So if is connected, in that case, we can say already connected to MongoDB. And finally, if that is not the case, we can open up a new try and catch block, and we can try to make a connection. But of course, to be able to make a connection, we need to have an active instance of MongoDB. So let's do just that.
Okay, I'm gonna type this out. He's probably gonna go into Atlas after this. False. Okay. Export const connect to DB is equal to async mongoose.set if not process env dot return console not hello. If is connected
You can go to mongodb.com and click start for free. Then you'll need to sign up with Google or just create an account.
Okay, I am going to do this off screen because I'm scared to share some keys. Wait, I actually set up a face cam. I don't know if it works. Let's see. Ooh. I don't know if it changed. Let's go. Oh, it does work. Nice. So it's unlikely I'll leak my keys at least.
Or sign in if you already have one. After signing.
Okay, I'm gonna create a MongoDB instance. I'm doing this stuff off screen just so I don't leak any keys. But in the meantime, I don't know if anyone's here. In the meantime, you guys can chill. Wow, we've been streaming for 2.5 hours. It's absolutely insane. Okay, I have an org. Imagine if I create new project. Yes, sir.
You might need to choose where you want to deploy your data.
I'm gonna name this threads to. Okay, now I'm just gonna name it Town Square. You know what? MongoDB Atlas. Come on, come on, come on, come on. I'm going to try speedrunning this just so I can get back to the code because I think at this point it may look like my screen is stuck. Wow, I just got a login error. Okay. Just gonna. My internet is kind of slow today. I'm not sure why. I'm gonna add another project. Okay. I'm gonna name it Town Square Bangalore. Got it. Create project.
We're going to choose the free version, which is going to be more than enough for our use case. You can also choose a name for
I'm gonna use the free version for now.
and you can click create.
AWS, Mumbai, okay.
Now it's going to ask you to choose your username. I'm going to do JS Mastery and your password. And then you can click create user. Don't forget to remember this password.
This is specifically why I didn't wanna wait.
Or store it somewhere. And let's
Okay, so I'm gonna copy and paste some passwords. You guys are just gonna have to look at my face. But yes. Local environment. Okay. Some. I'm gonna save this. I don't see this option though. Quick start is under security. Okay. Okay, local environment. Yeah, it's already done.
This is going to make sure that you have less problems with deployment and the app is going to be accessible anywhere. Great. Now this is pending. While it is pending, we can go to database. We can click connect and you can choose your drivers.
Set up a security permission below. Okay.
We can click connect and you can choose your drivers.
Not exactly sure what's happening, but okay, I'll just share this part. So if I click on connect, can I just okay, got it.
We want to choose Node.js. We can click connect and you can choose your drivers. want to choose Node.js, you have to install MongoDB, which I believe we have, and then you have to add your connection string to your application. So let's simply view the full code sample, and that's going to look something like this. The only thing we need in this case is the URI string. So let's copy it and click close. Now let's go to our environment variable by going to env.local.
Okay, this is the part where I need to give me 1 second. Okay, MongoDB underscore URL. Got it. Let's go. Okay, I think it's done. I don't think I need to set anything else up. Okay. Now you guys can see everything.
This string right here. Of course, you'll have to update your username and your password.
Oh shit, forgot to update the username. Oh, I think it was already there. Package local. Yep, it was. Okay.
Once you have your environment variable, we are ready to connect. The only thing you have to do is say await mongoose.connect. And we're going to pass in the process.env.mongodb_URL. Then we're going to set the connected to true, and then we can console log connected to MongoDB. Finally, if we have an error, we can simply console.log that error. This is it. This is the connection to Mongoose. And now,
Okay. Let's try this out. Wait, mongoose.connect, process. Okay, nice.
we have it, we can go back to user actions. Within here, we can create a new function to update the user. So we can say export async function update user. And we can just say that this update user function is going to return a promise, and it's going to be void, just like so. Now, inside of here, the first thing we can do is call the connect to DB function, which is coming from /mongoose. And finally, start making calls to our database. But to actually modify our database, what do we need to have? Well, we need to have models. So let's create a new folder right here.
What is that? Oh, fuck, okay. This is just incomplete code. I think I'm gonna just comment just in case. So starting backend. Okay. Okay. The fuck? Okay. Yes. Just clearing some stuff up. Now we can go to user actions. Okay. Use server approach. Spot async. Actually, I'm just gonna do this. Okay.
Within the lib folder, which can be called models. And there, we can create a new user.model.ts. And I hope you can see what I meant when I said that everything is unified and everything in Next.js is like you're writing just JavaScript code. No front end, no back end, everything is here. User actions, user model, the app. You don't even know whether you're in back end or front end because it all feels so natural. Of course, at the start, it's a bit weird because it gives you so much power. So you're asking yourself, hey, should I be really doing this? But the answer is yes. I'm going to teach you how to, for the first time, use Next.js 13 the way it's supposed to be used. To be fully honest, it took my team and I about 6 months to a year to properly change our mindset around how to write Next.js 13 applications. Because if you approach them as if you're approaching a React application, that's
I'm
not the
still
right way.
having a bit of
Of
trouble
course, it is
wrapping my head
React,
around
but
this.
you have to change your mindset. And hopefully this course teaches you how to do that, and then our pro course even more. So with that said, let's create this user model by importing Mongoose from Mongoose. Let's say const user schema is equal to new Mongoose schema, and then we have an object inside of it. We can set the ID, which is going to be of a type is equal to string, and the required is equal to true. We also need to have, so what does this mean? Threads have, and then most importantly, we have threads. So one user can create many threads, which means that threads has to be an object of.
The thing is, for the final app, I'll probably have to restructure this whole thing. So in hindsight,
A type is equal to mongoose.schema.types.object.id ref to thread, a string of thread. So what does this mean? This means that one user can have multiple references to specific threads stored in the database. Pretty cool stuff, right? After that, we can have onboarded status, which is going to be type boolean and default to false. Remember, once we create an account, we have to go through the onboarding where we choose our profile photo, bio, and the username. And finally, we have something cool, which are communities. One user can belong to many communities, and a community, again, is a type, mongoose.schema.types.object.id, and a reference to a community instance stored in the database.
I don't know if I'll implement it through, what is that? I don't know if I'll be implementing it through Clerk, but I definitely will be implementing the functionality. Okay, so user, I haven't created this yet, I guess.
That we have unique is going to be set to.
Okay, so we go to lib model / user.model.ts. Okay.
As well. Then we're going to have a name, which is going to be of a type is string and required is true. Image can simply be of a type string. Is we can export that user model. Great.
So what we're going to do is
types that object. One user can belong to many communities, and a community, again, is a.
Again, as I type it out, I'm just going to try to understand it. Mongoose from Mongoose. Okay. So now, user schema is equal to new mongoose dot. The ID is gonna be of the type string. Required is true. Okay. I can type string. Required. Image string. Okay, I guess this is some kind of shorthand. Okay, bios. The thing is, I wouldn't really ever go through this in depth. I would probably just ask ChatGPT to format it, because I feel like learning the syntax is kind of pointless. Type mongoose.schema. To thread. I actually don't know what this does, so I'm gonna look this up. Okay, the threads field is defined as an array of MongoDB object IDs. These object IDs are repository references to documents in the thread collection. Okay. Ah, okay. So this is how you represent a document ID. The ref thread indicates that the object arrays are references to documents in the thread collection. Okay, interesting. So there's going to be a collection that's just called thread that has a list of all the threads, I'm guessing, and you link each of those threads to your user profile. It makes sense.
mongoose.schema.types.object ID and a reference.
Fuck. Excuse me. Okay, so now we check if the user's onboarded. Type boolean. The problem with this architecture is it's not really scalable at all unless I'm willing to burn a hole into my pocket. So I'm thinking for the final architecture, I'll probably just rely on Atlas and try to migrate as much stuff away from Clerk as possible, because I don't think that's going to work out really well. I mean, Clerk is great for getting stuff set up, but I'm not sure if it's worth paying that money for maintaining auth and stuff. Okay.
A community instance stored in the data.
Why wouldn't you name it communities?
Great. This is all that we have for our user schema. So what we can do is we can export that user model by saying const user is equal to mongoose.models.user or mongoose.model user, where we pass in the user schema. We're doing it this way. For the first time, the mongoose models is not going to exist. So it's going to fall back to creating a mongoose model user based on the user schema. But every second time we call it, it's already going to have a mongoose model in the database. So it's going to know to create off of that instance. And finally, we can export default the user model. Now, to create it off of that instance. And finally, we can export default the user model.
Okay, const user is equal to mongoose.mongoose. User schema. Okay. Now I want to know how Mongoose works. So you can just pull up Perplexity. Hopefully I don't need this anymore. Probably don't need Clerk either. Is this Clerk? Yes, it is. Okay. Briefly explain how Mongoose works and everything I need to know. Okay. I know this. Mongoose provides methods for connecting to your MongoDB database, handling connection events. So where is the schemas maintained on the server? Okay, so when your application starts, your schema syntax is automatically loaded. Your Node.js application connects to MongoDB using Mongoose library. Yes, we did that. I think we wrote that on the code. Data validation. Cool. So let me just write down what I think I understood from this. This needs to be, I don't think this is entirely accurate anymore. Okay. Okay, so how Mongoose works. So when you run an application, the Mongoose code is loaded into memory. You connect to MongoDB using Mongoose. Actually, I don't know if I have notes on Mongoose already. Let's see. Do I? Oh, I do. Mongoose provides a high level of abstraction, data manipulation. Okay. So yeah, this is code that runs on the server. Cool. I think that answers the question. So now when I first run this, if I call the user schema, the first time this does not exist, so it creates a new model. And if the model already exists, it just returns the existing model. Okay, let's continue.
Now, back in our user actions, we can say await user.find1 and update. And I didn't even see it, but it automatically imported the user from /models/user.model. Now, how do we update? Well, this is going to take a couple of parameters. Let's try to see what each one does. The first one, we can pass an object of a specific ID. So we can say ID is going to be equal to user ID. And this user ID is going to come through props, or rather params to this function. So right here, we can accept a user ID of a type string. Once we find the user we want to update, we want to actually apply the updates. So that's going to go into the second object of this function right here, where we can say username is going to be equal to username.toLowercase. We always want to lowercase it just to be sure. And then what else do we want to do? Well, we can provide all of the other fields. Of course, username itself is also going to come through params. So we can now put this into multiple lines so it's easier to see. And we can also accept the username. Of course, we're going to also have the name, which is of a type string, the bio of a type string, the image as well of a type string.
Oh shit, okay, I'm starting to get a little tired.
Finally, the path type string. The image as well of a type string, and finally the path of a type string.
Okay, I think I'm gonna end the stream for today. Probably will continue tomorrow. I'll finish this up tonight, but I don't want to do it on stream. So tomorrow we're gonna finish this up, and we're gonna start building out the actual stuff for Townsquare, which is my startup. So yeah, cool. I'll see you guys.